Hello, I'm Amara Jones, and welcome to Caffeine TV, your daily video news brief. Here to take you through 3 headline numbers in just 3 minutes, giving you a different take on everything from housing policy to the Real Housewives. The mug over my shoulder I got last night after being on Democracy Now! For 3 hours for their election night coverage. And I guess Amy and Juan didn't want it back after I'd sipped on it for that long, but it was great to be on their show. Well, the first number up today is 7. That's the number of Senate seats that Republicans won last night. And if you were somewhere in the country and you heard the sound of rain, it probably was Democrats crying. Because in addition to losing control of the Senate with those 7 seats going to Republicans, Republicans also made double-digit gains in the House of Representatives and swept a majority of the 36 competitive gubernatorial races last night. And to give you a sense of just how bad it was for Democrats last night, Republicans won governor's races in states that hadn't voted for a Republican for president since back in the 1980s. And out of the 3 Senate races that we were watching here on Caffeine and had profile because they're bellwethers, 2 of those went to Republicans, and the last one will probably go to a Republican in a runoff, Mary Landrieu in Louisiana. So what does all this mean? Well, it means that the gridlock that exists in Washington right now will probably be on 10. That's because the Republicans are going to send up whatever bills they want to the president, and President Obama is going to veto them. And so they're going to be in a bit of a standoff. So if you want to know what the last 2 years of the Obama administration looks like, what his finale looks like, just think of a finale on one of the Real Housewives franchise. And if you want to know which one, just basically think of all of them. The next number up today is 28. Now, that's the number of states which, after last night, now have a higher minimum wage than the federal government's $7.25. And that's after voters in many conservative states like Arkansas and Alaska passed that minimum wage increase. And it passed by really big margins in these conservative, normally anti-minimum wage states. More than 2 out of 3 voters in a lot of these states wanted a minimum wage. Now, these results point to what I wrote about in Color Lines yesterday, and that is the Democrats were underperforming in this election because they didn't speak to people's number one issue, and that's the economy. As a matter of fact, Democrats who did manage to keep their races competitive for far longer than those who didn't. So perhaps the Democratic Party needs to return to being the bread and butter party. And incidentally, voters in Oregon and D.C. passed marijuana initiatives, medicinal marijuana. So I guess the minimum wage in certain people's states will go to help with their medicine. The next number up today is 100. Now, that's the number of women that are serving in Congress for the first time in history after Alma Adams won a special election in North Carolina to fill a vacant seat, and she's an African-American woman from that state and made history by becoming the 100th. Now, I guess we should all be celebrating, but if you look at women's percentage of the population, the number of women in the Congress ought to be more than 250, but I guess we'll take what we can get. But more women in the Congress is a good thing because they actually are helping to make that place work. As a matter of fact, women last year helped to end the government shutdown in the Senate. They formed a bipartisan coalition. They spoke and came up with a roadmap that got us out of that mess. So maybe on the first day when everyone is sworn in, the 100 women can gather all the 435 men and tell them to go play outside while they figure things out.